Welcome back to the Pioneer Room. I'm your urban eco-master. I'm outside. Yes, doing some business. But Terrence has created a paradigm shift once again at this level in the mainstream. Not saying that his work has not always been out there for many years. But to get this type of attention, mainstream attention, when most of us are paying attention, yes, is the shift, right? And I want people to pay attention to the interview keenly. As a chemist, I endorse the science so much. He's speaking my language, and many other scientists who know that the periodic table is not a box. We know that it is something like what is around my head, and as Terrence said, it spirals, because everything in nature actually curves. We know this thing, but the system, this 3D system, is a grid system. Everything is boxed, rectangle, or triangle, or something like that, straight lines. And in essence, the elements are not straight lines. They don't relate to each other in straight line. But since Dmitri Mendeleev tend to look at the physical and the chemical properties of the elements, they will appear like they are straight lines, because when you look at them like that, the physical and the chemical properties, you're actually taking a shortcut in the curve, a straight line in the curve. So a straight line in a curve is an average. So the periodic table is more like an average of what it should be, which is wave, because the particles behave like waves, right? So you should actually depict in the periodic table as waveform, right, in their relationship. And if you coil the wave, you will get the spiral, right? And with hydrogen being the tightest of the elements, the first and really and truly the only element, to be honest, that actually form the other elements. But what I want to talk about today is a couple of things. He made mention to lithium, right? And some time ago, in my first TikTok account, I did say the left side of the brain is governed by zinc and the right side is governed by iron, right? And when I said the left side of the brain, I'm referring to the left brain hemisphere and the right brain hemisphere, right? And we know that our journey here as light beings is supposed to hemisync both hemisphere, right? Bring it into coherence with nature, right? But in order for this to happen, lithium is very important. So does copper, right? Now, lithium is very unique. Like Terrence says, if lithium sees fluorine, if lithium sees fluorine, it will immediately lock onto it very tightly, and no other element will be able to displace fluorine. Because if you should use that same grid table, you'll realize that fluorine is in group 7, and group 7 elements are called halogens. All right, that means they need one more electron to complete their octet, right? And just below fluorine you have chlorine, and below chlorine you have bromine, iodine, astatine, right? Now, as you move down that group, what you realize is that the electron affinity gets lesser. As the elements get bigger, the electron affinity decreases. The opposite is true. As you move up group 7, the halogen, the electron affinity increases. And when I said electron affinity, it is the ability for the element to pull electron to itself. So lithium, which has a spare electron on the outer shell, can be pulled, and it will be pulled tightest by fluorine. Now look at the science now. The left brain is governed by zinc and the right brain hemisphere is governed by iron. In order to emisync both spheres, you need lithium, right? So that copper can fire the electricity. Now, lithium is responsible for hemisyncing zinc and iron. In other words, lithium prevents the overload, excess of zinc and the excess of iron. If lithium is not present, then your brain can be overloaded with iron and zinc, and this is where most of your neurodegenerative disease come from, your Parkinson, your Alzheimer and all of that, because lithium is not available. Why lithium is not available? Because you have fluorine from your toothpaste as fluoride and in the water binding with lithium, so that it is not available to hemisync both brain hemispheres, right? Now, what happens in this case, for example, if there is too much, say, iron, right, in the right brain hemisphere, and we regard the right brain hemisphere as the creative part of your brain, and the left brain hemisphere is the logic part of your brain, right? What we realize is that the left part of your brain, you have to develop that part. You come into this world, you have to develop the left part of your brain. Logics, you have to develop that part of the brain. But the right brain hemisphere usually come actually already developed. It just needs to be fired. You know, when I said fired, I mean that the neurotransmission of signals need to be fired, right? So, what happens in the case, for example, Vybz Kartel? Vybz Kartel is suffering from what is called Graves' disease, right? And this is where the right brain hemisphere, which, as I said, iron is dominated in that brain sphere. Much of what is called oligodendrocyte, which is a glial cell, we must start studying glial cells of the brain. Oligodendrocyte contains a lot of iron, right? And when that becomes overloaded with iron or deficient in iron, then the oligodendrocyte is unable to signal the thyroid and the kidney for functioning, and so you develop what is called Graves' disease, because you know the iron also control what is called the formation of myelin sheath. And myelin sheath, these are fat cells that are wrapped around your neurons. You wrap these neurons with fatty tissues so that the signals can fire, right? So when these myelin sheets start to strip away, this is where you start to have groans in, and things like the Graves' disease start to develop, right? And then you also have the oligodendrocyte satellites, which help you to now go spatiotemporally, right? Space and time, you can travel space and time from in the brain, right? So it is important to have sufficient lithium and bioavailable lithium, so that you can, hemisync both spheres, left and right, in the brain, right? So listen keenly to what Terrence is saying, because it gives people like me an opportunity to even break down the science a little bit more, so that the lay public can understand what is really going on. Much of the body is run on minerals, these elements, right? So you want to pay attention to the metal composition of the brain, because when lithium is off balance, it causes all different types of heavy metals to accumulate in the brain, like lead and aluminum and cadmium, that create all type of neurodegenerative diseases. And this is where we are today, because the environment is predominantly polluted by heavy metals. We breathe it, we eat it in food, and we drink it in the water. So you have to constantly clean the brain of these heavy metals, right? So that lithium becomes available and can be able to balance concentration of zinc and the concentration of iron, all right? And remember, zinc predominantly run things on the left side of the brain, which control testosterone development. Vice versa, iron control things on the right side of the brain, which of course control things like estrogen and menstruation and all of that. follow me if you think you like the energy that I'm sharing.